Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I want you to watch this clip. I may have played this a long time ago. I don't remember if I did. But this is the CEO of Cerberus, which has just been put in the last 48 hours back on the Link2 platform. Link2, who is one of my sponsors. Watch what he says here, because you've all heard about NVIDIA and how crazy that has gone over the last 6 months to 12 months. Because remember, Nancy Pelosi was a big inside trader of that through her husband.
Performance of 100 little chips isn't 100 times one chip, right? It's vastly lower and costs more because you have to tie them together, and it uses more power. And so we had an idea that we could, by building a vastly bigger chip, we could reduce the communication overheads. We could reduce the amount of times you had to move information. And in so doing, we could vastly accelerate the work. And that's what we did. And just to give you an idea, I have my props. The good thing about being in hardware is we get good props. This sad little chip is an NVIDIA A100. And you should lean forward because it's hard to see, it's so small. It's about 800 square millimeters, or for those of you who don't know metric, it's about the size of a postage stamp. This is our chip. Right? And it's 46,000 square millimeters. And that allowed us to have in one place vast communication resources, vast compute resources, and vast memory. And that allowed us to do work faster and produce results in less time.
So anyway, that's Cerberus. They're on the platform. And it's not just that at Link2 today, folks. Today only, they've just put this out. This starts right now, is my understanding. Today only, earn Bitcoin for each investment you complete starting at $5,000. The offer ends at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on 4/18. So the 18th of April. Here's how it works. Get $500 of Bitcoin for orders between $5,000 and $10,000. Get $1,000 of Bitcoin for orders between $10,000 and $25,000. Get $2,500 of Bitcoin for orders between $25,000 and $50,000. And get $5,000 of Bitcoin for orders of $50,000 and over. So now you know, folks. Go to linqto.com. All right, before we get going, XRP Las Vegas, you got, folks, now you're down to 14 days. 14 days left. Starts on May 3rd and May 4th. Look forward to seeing you all there. The ticket prices on this go up on the 25th. They're going to go up. So you better grab them if you've been waiting. On to the stuff. Check this out. This guy says with full logarithmic follow. This is not an XRP guy, by the way, which I like. I like looking at the analysts that are not necessarily XRP people. With a full logarithmic follow through, prices of XRP Ripple may be more than poised for $200 plus. Prices of Ripple went an over 108,000% run in 2017-2018 run, and has since set up and broke out of its largest resisting structure ever. A mind-boggling 33,000 30% run from here can be more than possible and developing. I've always thought that, folks. If you just think about all the things that they tried to stack against Ripple. Monica Long, the president of Ripple, was in the Web Summit Rio, had a few good clips.
But if we zoom out, what's exciting to me is over the longer arc of time, we're seeing growth and maturity in Web3. And I think a lot of that, and what's really exciting about this latest cycle to me, is real institutional adoption. If you think about it, some of the biggest brands in financial services like Goldman and BlackRock and Fidelity, they actually built their products and offerings in bear markets, meaning they see the bigger picture at hand. So I think that's what's going to be really different about this year, is the institutional embrace and takeoff. But if we zoom out...
here's an interesting clip right here. I want you to see this. This is Paul Barron, and he's putting her clip in, and he's going to do an old clip of Brad Garlinghouse. Watch this.
Off here with a clip, and this is from Yatsu, and also with XRP on stage talking about ETFs. Listen in.
So obviously on the institutional level, with the Bitcoin ETF, the ETH ETF that was just approved in Hong Kong yesterday. How do you see these big events this year, along with the halving that is also coming up in a few days? How do you see these trends being developed in terms of institutional adoption in general, and in terms of retail adoption?
Yes. So at Ripple, we have focused our entire business all along on institutions. And we certainly have noticed in the past few quarters here a much stronger lean in from banks around the world. There's certainly a much stronger liftoff. Hong Kong be another key market in that regard.
I think one of the things that's interesting is that we're not done yet with spot ETFs, broadly speaking. So Hong Kong just recently came in together with Ethereum spot ETF, first one in the world, I would say. Then there's Singapore, there's Tokyo, there's London, there's Europe. But I think also, CF Benchmarks, for instance, recently actually issued a GameFi index, right? Which basically is just the beginning of another level of institutionalization. Because of course, these tokens don't trade millions, they trade hundreds of millions of dollars a day. I mean, like Ripple, for instance, as well. You could totally imagine that Ripple would also maybe be an ETF, right? There's ways in which these systems are included. So now the institutional adoption gives it that credibility. And of course, the regulators can no longer ignore it. Some of them want to, and actually the ones who don't and actually are forward are winning.
So, you hit on a lot of good things there. Institutional adoption kind of mainlines this, and we do see this already happening, obviously, with the success of ETFs here in the U.S. But he also hits on the fact that there is a power center starting to develop in Asia, possibly being led by Hong Kong and the ETF for Ethereum. What happens if we could, and even Yatsu was talking about an XRP potential capability. I'm going to go back to an old interview here. This is Garlinghouse, Brad Garlinghouse. In case you guys don't know, I'm sure you do, if you're watching our show right now. But he was talking about an XRP. Listen in.
I'm sure you've seen there's buzz out there about potentially an XRP ETF. What do you make of that speculation?
Well, Kelly, good to see you. I think it only makes sense there will be other ETFs. The sad reality of what we saw with the Bitcoin ETF is it was only because the courts forced the SEC's hand, and really Chair Gensler's hand, that we saw that finally come to fruition. So you would welcome an XRP ETF then? We would certainly welcome it, and I think it's inevitable that there'll be, multiple ETFs around different tokens. And I think you'll even see ETFs potentially around baskets. Are you in talks with the largest issuers, particularly BlackRock, to get this done? Well, I'm not going to comment on that. I know BlackRock has said some things publicly. We think it makes sense for the XRP community overall. All
right, so, I think tongue-in-cheek for Brad Garlinghouse talking about an XRP ETF, likelihood is there's a good possibility, because remember, there's one key thing. XRP is not a security. So that in itself is and could be one of the deciding factors.
Looks like Paul is getting it. Now, I want to skip to this. This is Senator Loomis and Gillibrand talking on CNBC on a propaganda box about their stablecoin.
There's been a lot of speculation that there has been money moved through stablecoins and the like and others, through Tether and places like that, to places like Iran and Russia and others. And how concerned you are about that and how that relates to a bill like this.
Well, I think this bill is the first step towards really addressing illicit finance. This Stablecoin legislation creates a framework where it rests on top of the dual banking system. It uses the protections of know your customer and anti-money laundering protections in the banking system. This is a bill that's written to have 100% one-to-one dollar-backed. Custody has to be in a bank, and so you have all those protections in place in our ordinary banking system. And so this is bringing that level of transparency and accountability into blockchain and cryptocurrency. And the first, and I think the most important piece of this legislation is to take stablecoin and put it into a proper regulatory framework so that we can have consumer protection, we can have transparency, accountability, and we can have certainty.
Yeah, the worst thing we could do if stablecoins are being misused around the world is to step away and not regulate them. The whole purpose of this bill is to protect consumers while we acknowledge the existence and use of stablecoins. And furthermore, Senator Gillibrand has included some language from the FDIC that in the event there were an insolvency or a failure, a conservatorship or a receivership could be set up. So it's contemplated that even with our one-to-one reserves that we require and our decision not to allow algorithmic stablecoins, if something did fail, we have that safety valve of the FDIC receivership language.
We also require that if a stablecoin is issued, that it's done by its own entity. It has to be a subsidiary, right. It has to be walled off, and it can have no commingling of funds with other assets.
Yeah, separately custody is important.
All right, and then we've got this for, you know what? I've already gone over. I'm going to take this and put it in the next video, but I did want to show you in DAIXRP.com. Here's what we're going to do. There's something that's bubbling up, and I keep seeing it, and all of a sudden not everybody, but I don't think it's coming out of nowhere, and I want to go over it. It would be the worst fear of a lot of Bitcoiners, but I saw it pop back up, so I'm gonna cover it again, and issue tell you what I think about it. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. If you want to see every Bitcoiner's worst fear of fears, here it is.